Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcoming you all to a very special day for all of us from the Hindustan Group of Schools. We, the children and staff and management from the Hindustan Group of Schools, welcome each of you to this special edition of commemorating and offering our gratitude to the Doctors' Day. Our very special guest is Dr. ROHINI Rao from the Kaveri Hospitals, a senior consultant, senior doctor. And there's so much more to her, which I request our student Devansh to please introduce her.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Devansh, and I'm from grade 12 of Hindustan International School. Rohini ma'am is not just a doctor, and apart from being a very successful one, she is also a national and an international champion sailor. She is also a TED Fellow and is the founding curator of the Chennai hub of Global Shapers community. My fellow peers have their questions bursting with curiosity that they want to talk to you about, ma'am. But before that, I'd like to talk about you for a brief moment to the audience who don't know about you. I was honestly, and I'm not joking, I was honestly speechless when I first heard about ma'am, and I had talked to ma'am, Bharti ma'am about it too, because everything that you've achieved has been the results of your own hard work, and I mean everything. She went for sailing on a competitive level for the first time at just the age of 10. She, as I already mentioned, is an active TED Fellow and has also been part of a beautiful topic known as the hospital clowns. I'd like to hand over the mic to Rohini ma'am and request her to speak about hospital clowns for a bit, because honestly, it's a very intriguing topic.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for that introduction, Devansh. I'm almost speechless with all the things you've said. It's really, really sweet of you. And wow, you've thrown me into the deep end. So hospital clowning. Okay. How many of you know what, or rather, how many of you have seen Patch Adams, the movie? Have you seen the movie with Robin Williams? I think it's only for us oldies, Bharati ma'am. I don't think the youngsters have seen it. Okay, so after my
Probably
talk,
they will see it now after
yeah,
listening to
exactly.
you.
I think after this, I think it's definitely one of the movies you should watch. It had, one of the best actors around, Robin Williams. So it is based off on a real doctor, Dr. Patch Adams, and he lives in the US. And he currently practices as well. He started what we call modern day hospital clowning in 1986. And what happened was it's not just clowns putting on makeup and making people laugh and going into hospitals. Those kind of clowns are probably called volunteers. They are volunteer clowns who just put on makeup, put on costumes, go into hospitals to make everyone feel lighter and happier. But what we do now is more of a science. There's a lot of theory behind it, there's a lot of training that goes behind it. And 5 years ago, the Little Theater was very lucky to bring down a trainer hospital clown from New York, from the New York School Goof. And they trained us in hospital clowning for about a month. And what we actually do is, when you go into a hospital, how negative it is. I mean, how many of you have been to a hospital, right? How many of you have been an attender to a patient or even for yourselves? It's not a place that you can actually be, you can get used to. It's not something that you can actually go in and be happy about. Unless it's, of course, some good news where, it's a baby being born or something like that, but it's very rare. It's usually around a lot of negativity, and it's around a lot of anxiety. A lot of the negative emotions surround that whole space. And what happens to a patient when they get admitted into a hospital is that they lose control of themselves. Like, if they were the head of the house or if they were the boss of their company, they are nothing in a hospital. The boss suddenly becomes the doctor. It's the boss suddenly becomes the nurse. They have no control of when they eat, when they wake up, when they're just given medicines, and that's all they have to do. So hospital clowning actually concentrates on bringing control back to the patient. So that's a huge aspect about this whole form of therapy. And yes, laughter is one of the tools that we use to make them feel at ease and to actually alleviate some of their problems that they might be having. So this is a very, very brief, explanation about it. But we have like a 2 hour, introductory session just to tell you all the research that's gone behind it. There are, actual research papers that have been published on the effects of hospital clowning and how it's equal to, let's say, anesthesia that's given before a surgery. And the lack, you don't even need to have anesthesia when you give it to pediatric patients as well, which means lesser number of side effects as well. So it's much more than just laughter. There's a lot more to the whole science of it. So thank you for asking.
Wow,
Uh,
okay, that was a beautiful topic, ma'am. And coming to the questioning, though, I have another question for you. Ma'am, what was it that set you apart and made you better than everybody else in what you did? And what is it that impresses you in a person and sets them apart when you're hiring them?
That's a really important question. In fact, I get that a lot because I do mentor a lot of youngsters like yourselves. Um, the thing is, there are a lot of people, let's say, for example, who are engineers, who are doctors. Okay. They might have the best marks in class, but they may not have done anything else at all. And I'm talking about any extracurricular activity, anything else that sets you apart from just being a person who's good at studying or just has the right marks to get in. So truly what sets you apart from, all the engineers who've probably got 90 plus marks that are trying to get into a company or get into a job, they're going to start looking at what are the other things you do, right? And what are the things that would actually make you unique? Because nowadays people don't just want another engineer, or they don't just want another, software, a person. They're actually trying to see whether you can work as a in a team. They're trying to see if you have any leadership roles. They're trying to see how diverse, how well you can work in a diverse group of people, with a diverse group of people. And this is what sets you apart from the regular crop of people. So I think, to answer your question of what made me different, I guess growing up, I was always called the jack of all trades. And it's usually, synonymous with the being a master of none. And it's always very negative in that aspect. So I grew up wondering if I was doing the right thing. I grew up wondering, oh no, am I doing the right thing, doing so many different things at the same time? What if I'm actually not going to be that great at anything I do? And touch wood, I was really lucky that at a young age, I was the kind of person who learned things very quickly. I like things, and if I like things, I studied it more. Or if I like things, I did the sports more, for example. So I actually wasn't that bad. I may not have been the best, but I was at least in the top 5 in whatever I did. And I didn't just try it just for a few days. I actually tried, I did things for years. So it's not something that, you say like, oh, okay, you know what, I'm going to try for some time, but not give it enough time to actually, discipline yourself to actually learn in depth of what you're doing. Because nowadays what happens is, as a parent, I guess you would, tell your child, why don't you try doing, let's say, for example, play the piano. Okay. And after maybe a few lessons, the child comes back and says, you know what, this is too boring, I don't want to try it. So my point is, you quit very easily, and I think what you're teaching your child, or what you're being taught at that time, is if something gets too hard or something gets too boring, I'm just going to stop, you know
Really, so the consistency came from you or from an external force to keep doing it and to keep achieving and to do what you want?
Initially, I guess I would blame my mom for a lot of good things, for sure, because she decided that, just going to school and coming back and studying is not going to be an all-round experience in terms of your, growing up and becoming an all-round person. What she did was, she said, okay, you know what? I'm going to get you into music. I'm going to get you into dance, but I don't need you to do an arangetram at the end. I don't need you to write, the music exams. I want you to do this as something that, you enjoy. It's something that you would learn and that you would use whenever, if ever you want to use it. So my days were packed. Mondays and Fridays were Bharatnatyam. Tuesdays and Thursdays were piano, and then it became the violin. Wednesdays were martial arts. Saturdays were, orchestra and the theater and all of those art forms. And Sunday was sailing. Before sailing, it was horse riding, and then it became sailing when I was 10. A lot of children now don't realize, or even parents don't realize how much energy your child has. It might seem like it's a lot, but if you just do it for 1 hour or 1.5 hours a day, it's actually not as much as you think it is. And I think that way I'd be really happy and honored to thank my mom for all of this, because I learned all of this for at least 10 years each, most of them, at least 5 to 10 years.
And I'm sure you don't have a moment of regret.
Absolutely not. I think I realized a lot of the things that I've learned have helped me do better in other things. I don't know how to explain it better, but you have heard of certain people who do multiple things, but at the same time, when you focus on one particular thing, let's say, for example, my sailing, I just felt that I was more agile because of my dancing. I felt I was more, I was able to focus a lot more because of the studies that I have, because sailing as a sport is not a running race where you just start at the start line and finish in a straight line. It's a lot to do with physics. It's a lot to do with, the weather. You're working in different conditions every single time. So I would describe it as a game of chess with a lot of physical activity, which is why all of the things I learned definitely helped me, put all of those things I learned into what I was doing at that point of time.
Thank you
Wow.
so much, ma'am. Can we now have Alfia asking the question, please?
Sure. Thank you, Devansh.
Thank you.
Ma'am, this is me, Alfia. So I'm from Hindustan International School. Ma'am, your story makes the young generation to inspire a lot, and thank you so much, ma'am. And my question is, why this hospital or this medical department interests you? Because many people, including me, I get afraid of those doctors and the nurses and these medical equipments. But what made you to enter into the hospital or the department?
Okay, that's a really interesting question to ask. So a lot of people have asked me whether knew that I wanted to be a doctor right from the beginning, and the answer is no. I remember right from the time, and you're expected when you're in your 11th and 12th to actually know what you want to do after school, right? But the truth is, I had no idea. So I actually studied in a CBSE school as well, and I took all like the science group with maths, with computer science, with everything, because I wanted to keep all my options open, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. But it was a journey, a trip that I went to Mahabalipuram with my parents, where they told me, hey, listen, why don't you list down the things that you really like and the things that you don't like, and then let's start from there. And I knew that I was really bad at math, so engineering was out of the question. So none of those subjects were going to interest me at that point. I loved traveling. I loved biology. I loved all the other sciences. And I love people. I really love people, and I love traveling, among all of the other things that I listed. And so one of the options ended up being medicine. Okay, so I know I sound really cocky, almost talking about medicine just being one of the choices I had, but that's the truth. I actually got into BSc psychology in WCC because the counseling for medicine and the other and engineering happens much later in the year. So I actually did it for 3 months, and I really enjoyed my whole course at that point. And I then got into medicine through the sports quota. It was the first time sailing was included in the sports quota that particular year. And out of 1,800 applicants, only the top 3 get medicine and the rest of them get engineering. So I only chose medicine. I didn't choose engineering as an option at all. So people looked at me like I was really crazy, or that I was really sure that I was going to get medicine, and both were wrong. I was really lucky to be the third person to get a seat in medicine, and I got it. I got a seat in Chengalpet Government Medical College, and I remember telling my parents that there's what if I don't like the course? What if I don't? What am I going to be stuck there forever? And I think that point, my mom said, you know what? Try it for about 6 months, see how you are, and then we'll take it from there. I was really lucky to at least be given a choice. But when I saw that the person who came fourth in the ranking burst out crying because he didn't get a medical seat, I felt really bad that if I had dropped out, I mean, I would have basically stolen that seat from him. So I was in a lot of pressure to make sure that, hopefully I would like this course. And I really did, touch wood, thank God. I had a wonderful professor of anatomy who was a boxer in his youth. He was in his final year and he used to do boxing. And he actually told me that as a sports person, you have a very short, span in terms of, doing sport, but you can study at any age. So, I think you should choose to do your sport at this point. And I took almost 9 years to finish MBBS. So the reason why I'm telling you this giving you this background is it takes a long time for you to actually figure out what you want to do. And even if you're not sure of what you want to do, I think you need to make sure that you keep your options open. I remember the first day that I went into the anatomy lab and you see the human cadavers, right? That was quite an experience. I can tell you that much. It's not something that you can ever be prepared for. The smells, the sight, everything. And then if you're subject to something again and again and again, it's amazing how the human body can get, or the human mind can get used to it. And that's exactly what happens to all of us. I remember the first day I was in the ICU and I saw my first death. I didn't know if I would ever be used to that, but it is something that, again, if you're facing every single day, if you're going into the hospital, if you're looking at all of that all the time, and you realize that that's your job and that all you can do is the best you can, you will get used to it. Having said that, there are still moments where I'm not used to it and I do break down a
So,
lot of
Rohini, I can say that, sailing, dancing, and theater came as saving graces to this kind of an arduous time that you were having.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Ashwin, you wanted to ask something to Dr. Rohini.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Alfie.
ma'am. This is Ashwin.
Yes.
So, ma'am, there would have been tough times in your life. So, how did you overcome your fears and struggles while you're endeavoring in different activities?
So, yes, sailing is an adventure sport, which means, yes, when I started sailing at the age of 10, you're a single person in a tiny boat. We used to it's called the Optimist, but it's a tiny bathtub. It's really small with just a single sail. And you're out alone in the middle of the ocean. To tell you the truth, I really didn't know because I was probably that young. So when you're young and you do things, you really don't look at the fear factor of things. You just jump in and you do it. And I think the first thing they made us do was jump into the water and capsize the boat. So it's almost like you get rid of your fears immediately. And I think that part really helped. And I was just also very lucky that my parents were very supportive. I mean, I would come back with cuts and bruises and, all of that. And you can imagine being out in the ocean, you get tanned as well. I was just very lucky that my parents and grandparents were quite understanding and supportive of what I chose. So I think fear wasn't, an initial problem for me.
A very important lesson, I think, for each one of us out here.
Absolutely.
True. Neha,
Thank
she's
you.
been waiting to ask you something.
Sure.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Neha. Ma'am, so nowadays there's like this trend where most Indian parents are pushing their children into this field. And it turns out that in India, we have more people choosing this profession, and there are more doctors more than any other job. So do you think this is an advantage or a disadvantage for our country?
So you hear on one side that, there are a lot of doctors, and you hear on the other side that there aren't enough doctors. Now, the reason is mostly because there are a lot of doctors in modern cities, and they are not willing or not are not able to go in and serve the rural population. That's basically one of the major problems that we have, not just in our country, in many other countries around the world. You will be surprised to know it's including Australia, it's including, South America. There are a lot of rural places that people don't really want to go and stay. So luckily, with the Tamil Nadu government, I mean, I can't speak for the entire country, but I know that the Tamil Nadu government has worked out a particular way of, having service doctors, perform service in the government sector, and that is one way that they can help. But I think I attended a tribal village hospital that was actually run by two anesthetic doctors, and they empowered regular people, like, I think they probably passed their 10 standard to become nurses and to become health workers, and to actually impart medical knowledge and do minor operations in that tribal area, which otherwise would have had the worst maternal mortality and infant mortality. So to answer your question, it is a double-edged sword. It is a double-edged thing of, yes, parents might push your child to go into medicine or engineering, but I feel like there are so many other lucrative, more lucrative options at this point. It's not true that just because you become a doctor, you make more money or anything like that. And I think it's the same for engineering. I think there's so many engineers who come into engineering and then end up doing a lot of other things. So I think people and parents nowadays are more aware of different options for their children, and I hope that it just expands that way.
Thank you.
Gautam has been itching to ask. He's been really itching to ask you something.
Yes.
Rohini.
Sure, Gatu, ask away.
Good evening, doctor. Very inspiring story. Please keep it up. Everything about I saw your TED talk the other day. It was very, very inspiring. So I saw it over the net that you were the one girl against a world of naysayers, right? So could you elaborate over that?
Um, I think as you go on in life, there are always going to be a lot of people who are going to say that's not possible if you want to do something. But all you need is just maybe one person, and that's the truth. I didn't need too many people to, believe in me or say that it's okay. I just needed probably one. And that's why I say that, touchwood, I was personally very lucky to have the family or be born into the family that I was born into. Now find a husband who was also very supportive of the things I did. Because I mean, I remember soon after we got married, I was not in the country for, I think, 7 or 8 months of that year. And I know that in India it's unheard of. It's something that you're frowned upon. It's something that you're not supposed to do. So definitely, if you have that kind of support, no matter what anyone says, it wouldn't really hit you. And even if it does, you have somebody to, help you out that way. I think that's really, really important in terms of just your mental health and just to make sure that you can go forward. Um, I did miss the Olympic qualification, which was the most difficult thing for me because it wasn't my fault. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of officials and politics in the federations that didn't let me go in for the Olympics in 2012 for London. And it could have broken me. It could have broken me completely. And I probably would say that it was the worst moment in my entire, life, I could say at that point. But because I was doing so many different things, I ended up looking at different options for me. And one of them, that's when I started the Chennai hub of the Global Shapers community, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum. I, attended TED Fellow conferences. I, started looking at a lot of different things. I came back and I finished my MBBS after that. So I think it's all about taking those disappointments and doing something positive with it.
A lot of life lessons coming in, Rohini, actually. Inner strength and the emotional balance that you need to maintain, and take every opportunity that comes. Take every positive thing that comes your way.
Absolutely.
So nice. Sarah, my dear, where are you?
Thanks, Gautam.
Tara, can you be louder, sweetheart?
Yes, can you hear me, ma'am?
A little more louder, darling.
My name is Tara. I'm from Hindustan. So, as you said, of course, you're in a profession where there can be a lot of situations of panic and anxiety. So, what's your way to handle these workload stress?
I've actually spoken about this at during a TEDx talk that I had given. I think it's also down to your personality. There are people who do have an anxious personality, and there are people who have a very calm, personality, and you can see it. You can see, how people deal with situations in, high stressful situations, especially. Um, I think personally for me, I I had a great example at home. I would see my mother handle about 10 million things at the same time and still, have time for us, still have time to, work things out at home. So I think for me, I felt that it was very normal. Even if there was a crisis situation, like everything was very smooth, everything was very normal. So I think when you have role models or when you have somebody that you can look up to, it certainly helps. But if it's something that you have to develop and you have to actually realize about yourself, if you feel like, okay, you know what, I am an anxious personality and I need to do something to make sure that I don't let this anxiety get the best of me, that's when you can look into other things that make you calm. And I think luckily for me, because I did music and dance and all of the other things I did, I guess
So you had something to fall back on.
exactly, and I think that all helped me.
So I think children, just look around. You will find enough inspiration. You will find enough strength to make you keep
Doctor.
going.
That really inspires
Yes.
us.
Thank you.
Salman, do I see you literally knocking on my thing? Ma'am, can I ask?
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, it's actually really good to see you excel in all these fields, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, as we've been talking about professions and careers, you've been in a field of medicine and sports. Which other field would you have chosen to, fulfill your dreams and ambitions, and why, ma'am?
So those are the only two things you know of, I'm guessing, because I've
She does a lot
actually
of theater. She does a lot of theater.
Theater is a big part of my life because my mother started the Little Theater 28 years ago when I was 5 years old. So I was on stage, singing, dancing, acting right from the age of 5. I married an actor, director, and I was on stage I think last year. So I also made a comeback into sailing after almost 7 years last year. So I think to answer your question is I never say no to anything in that sense. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be. I don't know what I'm going to do, next week, next month. I love to take any opportunity that comes my way. And I think if you do that and if you allow that to happen for yourself, you'd be able to figure out whether you really like it or you don't. Because how
I
else would
was
you know?
telling them before this session, Rohini, I said, you children sometimes don't realize the kind of energy that you have. It's just boundless and seamless. You just need to, I think, pause for a moment and know that you have amazing energy within you. And as you rightly said, take every opportunity that comes by.
Absolutely.
Am I saying it right, Nivriti?
Yes, ma'am, you're very right. So, Rohini, ma'am, you're a very inspirational person to me. And a question that I would like to ask on behalf of all of us is, what was your main motive? Like, what was something that you would say to yourself so that you'd not give up?
Thanks for that question, Nivriti. I think for me, it was no matter what, I mean, things happen and it usually happens for the best. And I think that's something that really helped me through a lot of disappointments, in life. I think a lot of us just speak about the good things. So a lot of us only know about the successes. A lot of us only know about, oh, okay, she went here, she traveled here, she did this and she did that. Not many people talk about the failures. One, because I mean, it's quite a sad topic to talk about, that's one. I mean, if I meet someone, for the first time, I'm not going to talk to you about all the things that, make me feel sad or upset. It's just going to spoil everything. The second thing is I've also realized that if I don't talk about it, then you don't realize that it's always a mix of both, you know. And so I think for me, like I said, was if those failures didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm sure you would have heard that from multiple people, you know, throughout your you know, school career, or anyone who has made it anywhere. I don't think I made anything anywhere, but I feel like this is really something that would help you move forward.
Roni, that's wonderful to hear. And I think each child over here is actually taking in a lot from you. I have a question over here before my little children could ask.
Sure.
I mean, it's such a beautiful journey that you've covered. Now, coming to the present situation, we've heard your story, we've heard your, you know, the way you've journeyed upwards and juggling so many things. The situation that we are in now, I mean, though I didn't want to about it right in the beginning, but I think we need to discuss that, because how are you coping with that? You as a doctor, you as Rohini, how are you coping with the present crisis that's happening all over?
So, I mean, a lot of people have asked me the question of when is this going to end? And I really can tell you that as a medical professional, we do not have that answer. I think you need to look at an astrologer, or you need to look at somebody else to kind of, you know, get into that. So I will not be able to answer that question. But to answer the question of what is it like for us now, I think it is like every other day, except that every single minute we are scared. We are scared for one, we are scared for ourselves, but we're also scared for, you know, our family, you know, as well. I think a lot of us live with our parents and live with our older grandparents. So I think we're all really worried about being the source of infection for them. That is one side of things. The other side of things is, you know, getting calls from friends, from people who have been infected and who are going through problems, and not really being able to help them because of lack of beds in the hospital, or you know, it's just a lot of work at that point. But I'm, touch wood, I'm really lucky that I'm able to give consultations over the phone. I'm able to be there, just be a person who can talk to them and give them, you know, that's the kind of support that they need. Because most of the time, especially with COVID, it's not going to become too serious. But they also need to know what is that cutoff. So I think they just need somebody to be able to call to know when is the right time to panic, or when is the right time to actually go.
You mean the basic awareness which everyone needs to know?
Absolutely. And actually, with National Doctors Day being today, the theme of today is actually lessening the mortality of COVID-19 and bringing out awareness of asymptomatic hypoxia. I just read that up because you had asked me to talk about you know, it today. And I think that's really important, because a lot of people look at breathlessness as something that's a visible symptom where someone is not able to breathe. But one significant aspect of this COVID-19 disease is asymptomatic hypoxia, which basically means that there are no symptoms of breathlessness. And that's why it becomes a little more dangerous, because you don't know that your oxygen levels are going down, because you're not actually gasping for breath until it goes down to probably 60%. And that's already very, very low. And you know, you probably need oxygen support and eventually a ventilator if it goes down to that low, which is why I'm sure a lot of you would have you know, heard about, you know, the oximeter, the pulse oximeter that you can use at home. So a lot of the times, if you, and I don't know how many of you know of the other off symptoms that are around with COVID, because it mimics a cold, but it's not the typical, you know, phlegm and blocked nose, and it's not that, and it's not sneezing, it's not any of that. You actually lose your sense of smell and taste. And I think that's something that I've actually been hearing a lot from the patients that I've been consulting. And it's not because of the phlegm blocking your nose. And that's the very significant part of this. And
It's
the
like being so close to getting a flu and not actually
exactly
having it.
And it's a low grade fever. It's like 100. Usually the fever is about 100, 101, not more than that. And a viral fever technically should be
quite enigmatic, actually, quite enigmatic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why Krish comes in to ask you a question, Rohini.
Sure, shoot away.
Good evening, ma'am. Your story is actually really, really inspiring for me. And My question to you is, since this time of a global pandemic can be confusing and it can cause a lot of panic and it can cause a lot of frustration to a lot of people, what are some tips from a doctor's perspective you have to keep our minds calm, busy, and collected during these times?
So I think especially a lot of people don't give mental health enough of value. And I think a lot of us are being careful about not stepping out of our house, not, interacting with other people. And that is going to affect you mentally because we are social people. And I think it's something that really has to be addressed. So yes, Zoom meetings are great, but I've also heard of Zoom fatigue. So you need to make sure that you are limiting, the number of hours that you spend in front of the screen. Physical activity, so important. You really need to make sure that you're doing something physically, at least for, a few hours. Few minutes a day, at least 30 minutes to an hour. And I don't mean at your age you shouldn't just be doing like stretches or doing like some really mild exercises. You need to be actually getting your heart rate up. As youngsters, your body can be pushed to a really, really high level, and you need to be doing that regularly.
I think that's a very, very important tip, Rohini, for the kids. I think though some of them are doing it, but not to the extent that you've mentioned. Absolutely. Am I right, Kavya?
And the other thing quickly,
yes, ma'am,
meditation. So
right.
meditation is also a huge part of it.
So physical exercise plus calming yourself.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Kavya.
Do you think that in the coming future, doctors can be replaced by artificial intelligence or any other kind of technology? Or do you think that the human contact in the medical field is essential at all times?
What do you think, Kavya?
I think it will be like a 50-50.
Okay. So I think personally, there are a lot of things, especially with this pandemic, a lot of people have realized, a lot of doctors have realized, and the hospitals have realized that you don't really need to come to the hospital for everything. There are certain things that can be, done over the phone. There are certain things that can be done with very simple apparatuses that you have at home, like a BP apparatus, or like, for example, this oximeter, or so if individuals could just buy a couple of these really small, simple gadgets, we would be able to check your vitals so much easier than you having to come all the way to a hospital, and getting your vitals checked. So that's something that I feel like is definitely going to change, that for simple ailments, we don't really need to come to the hospital. But having said that, there are a lot of machines that can do a lot of things so much better than us. And in fact, I've seen a lot of AI that's been used, especially with IBM Watson, taking a lot of CT scans and being able to diagnose cancers much faster than doctors can. But I still feel that there is something with especially medicine that is based on a lot of experience. It's a lot of experience. It's nothing like a black or white. There's a lot of gray in between. And that's where the doctor's experience comes in. It's very difficult for me to explain to you why you don't have something or why you have something if a test comes out positive or negative. We need to look at so many other, parameters to actually tell you that, hey, listen, this is something that you need to look into. And
it's just like, we teachers realize that blended learning is possible and teaching could happen on a digitalized mode also. But of course, nothing like human interaction. But then there is a possibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think we can be replaced, but I think the machines would definitely aid in so much more that we, would need in the future.
Akash, you were waiting to ask something.
Good evening, doctor. I am Akash Vijayanan, grade 9. First of all, let me express my thanks and gratitude to you for this Doctor's Day. I will be liking to ask two questions. What is the secret for success, and is there any success formula?
Wow, I wish there was. I mean, I think all of us would be, very successful
applying it.
And rather, I think, let me change that question around. I guess, probably you would have heard this, but what is success to you? What is success to you may not be success to me, may not be success to, Bharati ma'am, for example. For a lot of people think that, okay, having money, having a great, great house, driving an amazing car is success. For me personally, if I had a chance to travel, if I had a chance to meet people, if I had a chance to help people, that was success. That is success to me. So a lot of people ask me how I'm able to, work in a private hospital like Kaveri Hospital and still travel. I've been to almost 49 countries so far, and I'm still waiting to travel to my 50th, and then this has happened. So I just feel like a lot of times they ask me how I'm able to do this. I did make a choice. I spoke to the management. I've told them that I will be invited to a lot of conferences. I would want to do a lot of different things if opportunities come my way. But I do understand that you will not be able to pay me when I'm not working, So that's a balance that I've struck with them. I've said, okay, you know what, if I go somewhere else and if I'm going to be doing something else, I don't necessarily need to be paid. So that is, you have to make a lot of different sacrifices here and there to actually fulfill what you feel is success to you. And I think that's what it is. I mean, everyone's definition of success is very different, and I'm sure you will get to that point as you get older. Believe me, I was in your place, and I would always look at it very condescendingly when somebody older told me that. But trust me, it takes a lot of time to get to a point where you realize what really matters.
It is very relative and it keeps changing. I think, and sometimes success is, measured by the day. Today, I'm feeling successful that my children are talking to you. I am actually happy.
Absolutely.
So, it differs per day and sometimes different stages in life. Yeah. Jashuran, am I right on that?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. This is Jashuran.
Hello.
So I want to pursue medicine as my career. So in your case, how did you obtain your motivation and passion to push yourself and achieve so many things? And what was your mindset that kept you going, ma'am?
So when I got into medicine, I'd actually won India's first Asian gold medal in my 12th standard, just 2 months before my board exam, which is unheard of. Like no school, no teacher, nobody would actually allow you to do that. They almost actually very nearly didn't let me write my board exam because I failed the revision exam in math. But I pleaded. I said, no, please let me do this. And I wrote my exam and I managed an 86% in CBSE, not including my maths. Don't ask me how much I got there. I passed. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. Luckily, they don't need my math score for medicine, so I was able to get it.
You don't know how much that means to many of them here.
So, can you imagine studying, starting medicine and then being asked to stop your sport because that's actually what has got you in there in the first place? That's what I faced initially. They actually told me that I have to choose. And I was very lucky again that I found someone called Ben Tan, who was a Singaporean, who actually competed in the Olympics in sailing during his final year of medicine. So again, I just needed one small hope of possibility to just tell me that no, it is possible. And that's it. I pushed in. And I think I was the only Indian woman at that time participating in international level sport and pursuing a medical career. So, but again, there are sacrifices, right? I told you I took almost 9 years to finish MBBS. So a lot of people would have, probably said, listen, I don't really want to do this. I want to finish it off really fast. But how many of you actually ask your doctor how long it took them to finish their medical degree? So it's a lot of the time it's in your head. You feel like you need the pressure, or you have the pressure to do this really quickly and you have to, achieve all of this. But I feel like if you know what you want, you will make it happen. There will be sacrifices here and there, but you will make it happen if you really want something.
And as you rightly said, Rohini, once you make a choice and you are definite on it, inspiration comes and things just fall in place. I mean, the struggles will be there, the challenges will be there, but you are consistent with the choice you've made and say, this is the path I've chosen and I'm going. things do fall in place. They
I'm
say
also gonna,
the universe kind of conspires to have your dreams come true.
Absolutely. I'm just going to add that, yes, I almost quit medicine 3 times during my MBBS because I really felt, it was quite hard. But I needed someone to kind of pull my ear and take me back to college because I was just psyching myself out. Looking at all my seniors study all the time 24/7, and I wasn't like that. I only would study for a few hours, but I would concentrate a lot during that time and not study with my book for the entire night. Or in fact, I prefer my sleep more than anything else. So if you ask me about sleep, yes, very, very important. So please.
So I think a balance of time and time management in place.
Absolutely.
And we have a very avid reader called Karishma who's waiting to ask you something.
Sure, Karishma. Thanks, Dishwan.
Karishma?
Ma'am, you have done so many things, and you have what, ma'am?
Go on, Karishma, go on.
Ma'am, you have done so many things in your life. You have done so many activities. You have pursued the career of a doctor. Ma'am, were there any times that you wish that you could just leave everything and go on a break? Like, did you get tired or overwhelmed by all that came in front of you?
Yeah, definitely, Karishma. I think, when all my friends were out partying on a Saturday, I would really like to just stay home and watch something on television. So that, like I said, there are a lot of sacrifices that you make to do the things you want, because a lot of people have asked me, how did you find time to do all of the things that you are doing? And I think that is a question that's always asked by people who are not doing much. The people who are the most busy will find the time to do everything they want to do, and that's the truth. And if you want to do something, you will. Having said that, yes, I have been overwhelmed, I have been tired. There are days where I just want to just sit and do nothing, and I do it. I listen to my body, I listen to my mind, I do take those breaks. And I think it's important to listen to that. I think we are just putting a lot of pressure and getting into this race, but truly nobody cares. Nobody on the outside cares about what you do, and I think you need to make those choices for yourself.
I think that's a wonderful point. Rohini is saying, listen to your body and give your body a chance and your mind a chance to know what it wants. That's really, really wonderful to hear. Children, anybody else wanting to ask anything more? Or my teachers are also, any of them want to ask anything to Dr. Rohini?
Yes, I think I would like to ask something. Good evening, Dr. Rohini, and a very happy Doctor's Day to you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've been overwhelmed by all the questions that have been flowing in from all our such capable and bright students. So, taking back, there's just one thing that I really wanted to know. Like in India, especially, that's what I have been seeing being a psychology student myself. I see that there are a lot of people who are hesitant to talk about the mental health. So how do we go about promoting the awareness that, going to a doctor for, getting well in the mind is as equally important as the physical health? How do we really go about that? Because I think I have myself tried my level best to, go around and just talk to friends. And then you see a string of news on the news channel flashing, so and so has committed suicide because of, and I think the major reason of all being depression. I think that's being the most commonly flashed, but of course not the most common mental health issue. How do you think will you, not just you, rather, like all of us together would be able to address this issue? How would we be able to bring a change in the society with this?
Thank you for that, Anjali. I think right now the awareness of mental health is so much better than, let's say, for example, 10 years ago. So I think what is happening is with everything, I would club mental and physical health together, because they really go hand in hand. And we are not thinking about the kind of food we put into our mouths. We're not thinking about the kind of, exercise that we are not giving our bodies. A lot of the times when, I have to go and do these health checkups for these IT companies and a lot of these offices. And all of them have, essential hypertension. They are borderline diabetics and, all of those problems. And they're hardly 30 in their 30s. So what happens is we only start reacting when we start becoming older, when we start becoming in our 40s or late 30s is when we start reacting and being like, oh no, we should have done something when we were younger. We need to start thinking of our health, I would say, right from the age of like your 20s, your teens, because that's when the most abuse happens. So actually addressing school students, college students is something that is really, really important, where you don't take cognizance of what you're doing to your body and your mind at that point. So when the doctor says at least do 20 minutes of walking, all of us only hear the 20 minutes of walking. We don't hear the at least. Our body is so capable of so much more. And trust me, if you're in school, if you're in your teenage years, if you're in your 20s and 30s, you can do so much more. Our body is capable of high intensity workouts. It's capable of lifting much heavier weights and doing a lot more exercise than we are subject to. So I think it's literally the healthy mind dwells in a healthy body that a lot of people are not correlating. It's not easy to take care of your mental health if you're not looking after yourself physically. It's
So I think
all
we must
together. It's
understand the
integrated.
interdependence on the physical and the mental health that goes. And as
Absolutely.
Anjali rightly put in, and Rohini, you kind of complimented the thing. Children, people, everyone needs to talk, not just randomly, but whatever you're feeling within. And of course, the mental health quotient and the awareness has increased. Probably the children who are listening to us will carry the message forward and see that there are there's lesser sadness because of mental health.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and especially on this Doctor's Day, Roni, coming and talking to us about your life, about your journey, and kind of inspiring all our children and us, including that no successful life is without hard work and struggles. It's got its measure of challenges and hard work and all the ups and downs. But today, when you're adored, when you're admired as a doctor, you kind of forget all that. It's worth it all those challenges, all those uphill tasks were worth it all. That's what I see it on you, right? And thanks for the message that you gave on the present crisis that we're undergoing about taking care of mental health, taking notice of the kind of little signs that are coming in, being aware, being careful, being safe. It all meant a lot to us. So on behalf of everyone, all my children, all my staff members, and the Hindustan Group of Schools, we are immensely grateful to you for taking time and sharing us your journey as a doctor, as a theatre enthusiast, as a sailor, and above all, a wonderful human being.
Thank you. I just like to leave you all by saying that it's okay that you don't know what you want to do. It's okay that you don't have all the answers. You can spend your entire life trying to find that. I still don't know what I want to do and what I'm going to do in the future. So just know that that's okay. You don't have to know it all. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rohini. It means a lot to us today.
Thank you so
and
much.
thank you, children. You were amazing, each one of you. I was just telling them, Rohini, some years later, probably, they will be on the and I'll still keep interviewing them. I'm waiting for that day. Each one a kind of a shining jewel in their own success stories, for sure. So thank you very much, children. Thank you, my dear teachers. And once again, Rohini, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was pleasure meeting you, ma'am. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Anything, do
Thank you,
share
ma'am.
my number or email.
I will do that, Rohini, for sure. Thanks a lot. And a very happy and fulfilling Doctor's Day and Doctor's Life to you.
Thank you.
Happy Doctor's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy Doctor's Day.